Hey folks, so I'm building a relatively simple web app using Yesod, which is a framework for building web apps in Haskell. And this right here that we're looking at is a route handler. So that controls what is returned when you navigate to a certain route. And as you can see, it is kind of big and has all sorts of nested things going on, and it's difficult to reason about, and we have some repeated code, and yeah, I would like to refactor it so that it is nice and small, like see these routes where they don't stretch across the entire screen. And that's what I'm going to try to do in this video. First, let me show you kind of what we're looking at here. So if I can find the appropriate page here. So this is kind of what we're looking at. So we'll go to the root of it here, and it's this is a property management app, and it's intended to help manage properties. So this would be the property list. Apologies, this is like literally the style from the what you call it, the skeleton or whatever that is provided with as a template with Yesod. So I'd like to do style later. So we're just sticking with this right now. So it lists all of the properties. We got 3 of them in there right now. You can add new properties. Has a drop down of all the enterprises. Properties belong to enterprises. And yay, we added a new property. So cool. And then if you add a query string with enterprise ID, you can view the properties for just one enterprise, right? And eventually, this would be kind of the main view because you have a user logged in who's only like the user belongs to one enterprise and they can only view their own enterprise's properties. But for now, we're just keeping it simple. And yeah, so it's a pretty simple page. So you'd hope we could simplify the route handler, right? So let's dive into it. But before we dive into it, I'll say this is like literally the first kind of big or whatever Haskell app I've written. Um, and this is probably the first time I've done refactoring of this scale, so it might be tough. But hopefully, like seeing a newbie who doesn't know what he's doing do it, and going through it together might be helpful to somebody. I don't know. So let's get started. The first, so I'll kind of guide you through what's going on here, from the inside out. This bit of code right here, which is repeated with slight variations up here, actually including, yeah, this bit of code actually renders the HTML that we're returning back. And it sets the title, and then it renders a widget file. And the widget file, which I'll show you right here, this is written in Hamlet, which is the templating language for HTML. It's called the Shakespearean templating family of templating languages because the CSS and JavaScript ones are also named after Shakespeare characters. And Hamlet allows you to, have kind of HTML going on, and you don't have to close tags, which I guess is nice. And it also has some features for doing some computations. So, for example, here we can, we can essentially, destructure a maybe, or here we can loop and render some particular HTML for every element or for everything in a list. Kind of using a syntax that's a little bit like list comprehensions. So yeah, pretty simple. So that's what happens here, and what actually happens, which we'll probably see the effects of this later on. What actually happens is that it using template Haskell, it converts that Hamlet into Haskell, and then sticks it right there, replaces this with that Haskell. Um, we can set the title of the page, so you can see right here we're setting the title. Um, we're using some variables inside our Hamlet file, and kind of the upside of the part where it just kind of sticks the generated code from that Hamlet file here is that you have access to all variables that are in scope, um, which is kind of, I think, kind of good, kind of bad. Kind of good because uh, you don't have to deal with like marshaling variables into and out of or into the file, and kind of bad because it relies on certain variable names being in scope and of the correct type, so it's maybe a little bit less easily reusable. Like it relies on the environment outside of itself in a way that maybe could be avoided. So, but it is what it is. I think it's mostly good. Um, but the upside of that is that we have to ensure that those variables are in scope, and that's what we're doing right here, where we're just getting the name of an enterprise. Default layout is the uh, default layout, like the container for the page, and this is literally just came with the project skeleton that I'm using, the stack template. I haven't modified that one bit. Um, this bit right here, we're generating a form, and I can show you the form. Here's the form. The form this is using this Yesod form library. I don't know if it has a particular name. It's that form we saw, so we got some text fields that have some text in them, and we have a drop-down list. Select field list is what they like to call it. You see those are the types, or those are the sorts of the form. These are the labels that go with it, and then back here is the default value, which could be nothing, or it could be something. And this something is because when you're on a page belonging to a particular enterprise, I'd like that enterprise to be the default value for that dropdown. Right. And so, yeah, we do some manipulation to get the enterprise into the information from the enterprise into the format that select field list wants. That's about it for the form. It's a form. Generate the form that gives you back a widget and gives you back an encoding type. I'm not 100% sure why it gives you back the encoding type because I didn't read that part of the book. It has to do with internationalization, but this is for somebody who is not international. So, yeah. We got that. That's the inside part. And then right here, so this is this big kind of case expression that's governing this entire thing is on the query parameter. So we look up the query parameter. That gives us maybe a query parameter, or maybe not. There might not be one. And then we pattern match on that to determine which type of page we're going to render. Do we want to show all of the properties, or do we want to show like just the ones belonging to that particular enterprise? And then in here we have this kind of ugly thing, which I bet there's probably a better way of doing, that essentially takes the text query parameter and converts it into a key for persistent. And if that's not successful, then this crap gives us back an either. If that's not successful, we're going to get a left, and it might have an error message or something. I don't know. But for right now, we're giving them a not found, and I'd like to change that. It's kind of another thing I want to do with the refactoring here is these cases where I'm giving back a 404. Well, there's no reason to give back a 404. I can show useful data, maybe just not the data they thought they were going to get. So, yeah. And then, but if we are able to extract an ID from that query parameter, then we get the properties that where their enterprise ID is equal to that ID. And then we also find and this should probably be in the different order. We would find the enterprise that corresponds to that ID, or try to find it. If we don't find it, again, we're giving it a 404. I'd like to at least redirect. And if we do, that's where we go render the page that has the properties that are only corresponding to enterprise. And if we didn't get a parameter, we'd just render all the properties. Just get like all the properties with no filter. And we'd pass no default value into the form, so it would just default to whatever the first one is. So yeah, let's get started. I was hoping this would be a little bit quicker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bit right here and try and refactor that. And that right there, I believe, so I'm going to call that like get or render get property R. And it should eventually give us back a handler HTML, I think. Yeah, it should eventually give us back a handler HTML. But it does, I'll just kind of start typing and we'll see what we need. Equals, so we know we're going to have default layout, do, equals enterprise name is, what? And also I happen to know that in our property list here we also need all properties. So that's going to be like let all properties equals more question marks. Set title after to HTML. It's for some reason it expects page titles to be in HTML. That doesn't make sense to me since page titles are text. But I'm sure there's a good reason for it. And I'm gonna do this just enterprise title of something. So we want to extract the title from some enterprise and concat that onto properties, or you know what? Make it cooler. Actually I think the way I want it is I want it to be, if there's an enterprise, I want it to be like enterprise name pipe properties, and if not, I just want it to be all properties. So what I might do here is instead go like a list of like something. You know what, for now we'll just say properties. No, actually I do want, you know what, for now I'm just going to use this line right here that we already have, except I'm going to replace that with some question marks. I wonder if I can give question marks like type annotations so I can remember the types that they are. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? And finally, we're going to have our widget file. So cool. So clearly we need more information in order to render this route. Oh, we forgot something actually. That's no good. So this is all going to have to move. Oh. So this is all going to have to like move down. So we're going to have to say do because we have to do the form. So that's going to be generate form, add property form, we already have that. This is a question marks. This is also some question marks. So this is going to be like enterprise ID question mark. All enterprises question mark, so I can remember which one goes where. All right. Now that's a handler HTML, but we do need more information. So um, we know we're going to need a list of properties, of course, because that's the entire point of this page. List of property. That's good. And then take a look. Actually, we need a list of entity property, which is fine because that's what persisting gives us back when we get a list of things. And so now we know that's, I'm just going to call it P's. I'm kind of in the middle between using kind of these short, like very idiomatic Haskell-y short 1 or 2 letter variable names and using like big, long, nice descriptive variable names. My day job, I program JavaScript where the big, long variable names are considered more idiomatic. But I guess I can kind of see the merit of using shorter names in Haskell. And maybe I'll experiment with that a little bit, but I'm still more comfortable with the longer names, as you can see. So all properties are just going to be P's. And you know what? We can just bring it into scope. Like that. Use the longer variable name. I do, for this kind of cross where this is going into the Hamlet file, I do want it to be longer and more descriptive, definitely. And I know we're going to need... So this right here, and that right there, and that right there are all like the enterprise that we might be on. So that's going to be something. This right here is going to be a list of all the entity enterprises. So we know what that is. And again, all enterprises. And yeah, I can take the question mark off that. So we're making some progress. And now, so the way I have it set up is I have, at this point right here, or at this point right here, I have a maybe enterprise, and I have an enterprise ID. And then once we verify that that enterprise ID did correspond to an enterprise, we have just an enterprise. Our form needs that enterprise ID or nothing. And in order to generate the title, we need the enterprise. So we want an entity enterprise, and I guess I can just... We want maybe an entity enterprise, but we don't actually have an entity enterprise. We have an enterprise and its ID. So I guess what I can do here is say maybe ID enterprise. And then call that selected E. For selected enterprise. And then we know here, so we need the ID from that. So I'm probably wrong. I'm often wrong, but I think that should just be like fmap or first fmapped onto selected E to give us select the enterprise ID out of it, still wrapped in the maybe. And then enterprise name, I think that is, see, that's also a maybe, so that should just be by the same token second fmapped onto selected E, right? And just for anybody who doesn't know, that is precisely the same as saying fmap second selected E. It's just a slightly nicer syntax to read. All right, and I think we have one more Oh, this needs to be that we need to extract the name out of it. So we need to say, actually, well, we need, yeah. So we need to extract the name out of the enterprise. So it's going to be enterprise title. And I called for whatever reason I decided I'm going to have, because I've got a number of different, data sorts of data floating around in the app, and I decided I'm just going to universally, they all have a title and they all have a description. And it's always going to be called title and it's always going to be called description, even if it would make more sense to call it like name and notes or whatever. But just for my own sanity, I decided it's going to be um, yeah, so it should be enterprise title. Oh lordy, I'm not the super most comfortable with like function composition. I think this is right, but that might need to be like a dollar sign or just no nothing. Honestly, I do a lot of like experimenting and then trying to compile, and then it fails to compile, and then I go fix the type errors. So I think first it should select the second out of it, right? And with function composition, it goes right to left, right? So it selects the second. So now we have a enterprise, and then we get the title, select the title out of the enterprise. That leaves us with the text, and then we fmap it onto a maybe, so it's going to be maybe text, and that's what this is expecting, maybe text. So hopefully that works. All right, so in theory, I ought to be able to go in here and I'm gonna like press enter a bunch of times and comment that out. But I do want to keep it around. So in theory, we should be able to just replace this with like render get property R. And we have our list of properties. That's all properties that we got from the database. And then we have our list of enterprises. That's all enterprises that we got from the database way up here. And then we have a maybe tuple. So that'd be just, first is the ID, EID. Second is the enterprise we got back, which should be ent, right here. And in theory, that should like compile. It probably won't, but in theory it should. I didn't. Oh, it still thinks I still have question marks here. Oh, that can just be enterprise name. It didn't like that. All right, so let's see, what do we got here? So this is our, oh, we need a comma. So we're probably gonna get more errors. We did. All right, no instance for, what? Okay. Oh, it's still a maybe at that point. I'm stupid. So what I need to do here, actually, so it's complaining because, and I'm sure smarter people than me who are watching this were like, hey, you are making a mistake there. The enterprise name here is not actually the enterprise's name, it's maybe. It's wrapped in a maybe. And we can't, maybe is not a monoid, and it's definitely not text, so, I don't know. So yeah. So, and then it's also kind of incorrect because I want this to be generic. So you know what I might do? I use the maybe function, right? And I give it a default value. And then I give it the function that ought to be run, which is like lambda n, lambda t for text, t properties, and then a maybe to run it on. That might make things better. It did make things better. I'm surprised at how few errors happen there. And just to make sure that it's still, I mean, so here's the nice part. Here's what I'm really, 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 really enjoying about developing in Haskell. With Yesod, I assume it would be the same for any other framework. Is so with JavaScript, if I was developing like a Node app, right, I would make some changes and save my file, and it would hot reload, and then I'd have to go over and make sure it does the thing that I want it to do, and it probably doesn't. I probably made a mistake somewhere, but Node doesn't tell you. Node just kind of does whatever it wants to do. If you screw up, it's okay. We'll just kind of fail semi gracefully or partially fail or just do weird things. Whereas with Haskell, if it compiles, like it does probably does what I want it to. In fact, in this case, I'd be certain it does what I want it to. Refresh here, it still does what I want it to. Yeah, cool. So that's nice. So we just refactored some stuff. So yay, this is at least a partial success, but I want it to be more successful. So we can also replace this guy right here with render get property R, and that should still have all properties, and it should still have all enterprises. But then this is, so this right here is we're dealing with the case where it's just the view all properties thing, so it's just nothing. In theory, that should work. You can see it's yelling at me for non-exhaustive pattern match somewhere down here, I think. So I'm sure there's probably some sort of good way to fix this, but I'll do it later. It's when the form is submitted, it should see if it's successful, right? And if it's successful, then we probably want to like insert something in the database as the post route. But if it's not successful, I guess I should probably send back an error or something, but I'm not doing that yet. So that'll be fixed in the future. So hey, it's already looking a lot better. I feel like we should be able to shrink this to the left, so and or like at a more technical level, we should be able to. So we have a maybe that goes. We have a maybe. We're pattern matching on a maybe, and then we're pattern matching on an either, and then we're pattern matching on a maybe, and that's like, don't we want to have like, we want it to be like, foo bar, like an applicative kind of style, baz, and then finally like somehow apply that onto render get property R. Or, we might not be able to get it that nice because that's what good Haskell programmers do, and I'm not a good Haskell programmer. But I think we should at least be able to use some properties of these functors or applicatives to simplify this a little bit, right? Maybe not. I don't know. So let's look at what we got here. So we got maybe text, and if it's nothing, we short circuit everything and we just render all the properties. Find all the properties and render them. And if there is something, then we have to extract, convert the text to a decimal, to a key, and because we're using this data text reader, like surely there's a better function to use here. I tried just using like cast and that failed. That was the only, like literally the only time in developing here that I've had a runtime, not failure, but it didn't do what I wanted to. It just never successfully casted. So it was always giving me a 404. And I'm thinking in the future, I might be able to like extend this with another parameter that indicates like success or failure, or in a more visual sense indicates whether there should be like some sort of warning banner saying, hey, you tried to look up an enterprise that didn't exist, so we're not going to show you that. We're going to show you something else. Um, but for now, I just want it to, all these failure cases, it's just going to be like render, we're just going to render the root, all properties. And I'm doing that, number one, so that I don't have 404s on a page that shouldn't have 404s. But number two, because I think it might give us a little bit of insight into how this should flow. Because now we're running the same thing 4 times. Alright? And it always has, so this all enterprises is always the same. Yeah, all enterprises is always the same, so I should probably flip like the order of the variables down here, right? I think I should. And the reason I think I should is that I don't know if I can explain why I should, but I'm pretty sure I should. Sorry for the vape noises. And then flip the variables here. So first, like, do that one first. Copy that. Paste it there. Paste it there. Whoa. Didn't like that. No, that's not what I wanted either. I don't want you messing up my indentation. Whatever. Alright, and then I'll flip it around here. Let's make sure we didn't break it. We broke it. Enterprise, 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 enterprise. Not an enterprise. We still broke it? Not in scope. How did I misspell something? All enterprise. To line 21, I guess line 21. What? Huh? So line 21, it thinks my things are in a different order from what they actually are. That's strange. Okay, that fixed it. So that was some sort of weird thing with the, probably because I saved it too many times in succession. Some sort of weird thing with the hot reloading. And now variable not in scope, all properties at line 23. Oh, that's because we don't have... yes, so we'd have to do... So this is if we... we should probably get some properties. So we have properties to show. Alright, that fixed it. So now, and then we can see another pattern, right? That we always have we get the properties that we need, and then we render it. In fact, I mentioned earlier that we could probably, like, just in order to, again, put everything into kind of the same, where it all looks the same. Yeah, whatever. We're not going to worry too much about the indentation here. I know it looks like I'm making it worse, but I promise I'm actually making it kind of better. All right, so right here, if we have nothing, if we have no, there's another thing that's kind of weird-ish. What happened to my? There we go. That indicates that I could be doing this better. Is that? Oh no, never mind. Yeah, so we get this is once we've packed or unpacked that enterprise ID, we go try and find the enterprise, and it's possible that we could not find an enterprise. And in that case, we've decided we're going to show all of the properties. So we can't filter on that. So let's see if we broke it. We did not break it, so that's good. So next step, I think, is that we can reduce. We have this repeated code right here, and we could take that and make that its own function, right? And that is going to be. So that's going to be like, I don't know what to call that. Get props, then render. And honestly, these will probably be like some temporary names here. Or you know what? If we're always getting the properties, then I could just do it inside the. I kind of liked having this render get property route that isn't touching the database. So I think I am going to keep it separate. Or you know what? So the properties that we're selecting depend on whether we have an enterprise. So again, I think this should be in a separate order, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say maybe ID enterprise. So I'm going to get properties, and that's going to give me a list of entity property. So make this get properties just and actually, you know what? I'm going to look up the enterprise here too. But we might need to do some, might need to make it more complicated since I do have to thread through the enterprise. And yeah, because what I'm looking at here is this is going to do the database work for getting the properties. It'd be like get properties just EID equals run DB. Oh, what did I do? Page down. And that the type is not correct yet. Actually, you know what? We're gonna use stack. We're gonna say what's the type of run DB. Or select list. Ask property ID. And that type is something horrific. That's because the Yesod has some, like just some type wrappers that simplify things into handlers. But so this is what I'm reading right here is the type of that expression run db blah 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 is base backend Yesod persist backend site is a SQL backend. Yeah, I think that's a handler. In fact, that has to be a handler. It's probably a handler HTML, but whatever. I don't know if the handler even, I don't know if that even matters. So we're giving back a handler HTML. I'm gonna run it. Do, you know what? We're gonna make this P's. Run DB. Select list. And then I'm gonna look at my handy dandy. It's list, maybe to list, right? What I'm doing is I'm over here and hey you, yeah, there we go. See, maybe to list, and I got back good some results and shit. So that's nice. I'm a documentation driven programmer. Select list. That's gonna be maybe to list EID. Oh, actually, this has to, it's gonna be, so it has to be this property enterprise ID equals dot thing. So we're gonna say property enterprise ID dot back maybe to list EID. And that probably ought to be wrapped in parentheses. And I know parentheses aren't like the way, but it's what I'm comfortable with right now. And then ask property ID. And I guess this is kind of important. So this is like just the sort, right? And I guess it's kind of important because that's, I think that's how it infers what to return, especially if like in all these cases where we have no enterprise ID, like right here it knows that that's property enterprise ID, right? But like you look right here, I don't really care how they're sorted. They can be sorted in like insertion order for all I care. But if it was just select list, empty list, it wouldn't know what I want. So that's why we have that sort of like unnecessary sort ascending property ID in there. I don't know, I'm just really cargo cult programming here. So we got the properties, and that's the properties. And then we just like return PS, which means we don't even need all that. It can just be this. And so now we have something that takes a maybe enterprise ID and gives us back a list of properties. So either if it's nothing, it'll give us back all the properties. And if there's an ID in there, then in theory, if I did this right, it should use that ID to search for only properties that belong to that enterprise. So now we can just say like replace all these with like get properties. Just EID, I think. I wish I can get like the VS Code extensions working so I could just have like mouse over type annotations. That would be awesome, but it hasn't. I've tried the various different ones. I have like 3 different sets. I think I have all of the different sets. There's like Intero and Haskero, or yeah, there's Haskero and there's other ones, and I've tried all of them, and at best they work like 1 out of 10 times, and the other 9 out of 10 times spam me with annoying error messages. So let me get properties nothing. Slowly simplifying here. Let's see if I broke it. I broke it. Ah, it's broke. All sorts of broke. But when I see lots of things that are complaining about one thing, often it's like rooted in just one thing. Alright. I don't know why I destructured that. So I think I found that the way to read the errors here is bottom to top. When GHC gives you a whole bunch of errors, bottom to top tends to fix things faster because the ones above might depend on the ones below being wrong. So we got maybe the list EID, right? So now we got a list of EIDs, and I feel like I did that in the wrong order. See, that somewhat improved things, I think. Yeah, that fixed that. I just had my functions in the wrong order here. Oh, okay. You know what? Well, no. You know what? I'm just gonna nuke the type annotation because I think I got that wrong, and see what it has to say about it. See, that simplified a lot of things. And then, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of the type annotation. I'm gonna make it compile, and then I'm going to use the REPL to go get the type annotation back out and put it back. I think I just had the wrong type annotation here. Non-type variable argument in the constraint, something, something, checking the inferred type. Use flexible context to permit this. Is that one of those ones where it's like, no, don't do that? So there's a resource that I have here that I have bookmarked by Stephen Deal. What I wish I knew when learning Haskell, and it has lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of cool stuff here. One of the really good section on language extensions that has a nice thing here that tells you is it benign? Is it purely historical and you shouldn't use it anymore? Is it still syntax? Kind of what does it use? And then there's also like all sorts of references below. Use this to look and see, is that benign? We were looking for flexible contexts that claims to be benign. What does it do? Okay, well, I don't really understand that, but it's benign, so okay. So let's enable that and see if it fixes things or makes things worse. See, I know, like, I've just from reading Reddit and whatnot, I know there's like one of these language extensions, not these hopefully, not these particular ones hopefully, but there is a language extension that you'll get that like GHC message. It's like you have a problem, but use this to fix it, and it's like some really, it's a language extension that has a high likelihood of breaking things. Oh, see, that made it work. I don't know why that made it work, because I'm not a super duper type level programmer. Maybe, maybe after I finish this project, I'll be a super duper type level programmer. Probably not. So I'm just trying to find. Here we go. So here we are. I've compiled. It's running again. Let's see if it still works. Should work. It's Haskell. See, this is the great thing. It just works. It's so awesome. You compile it and it works. Like I keep expecting to like have it go boom and then have to open up the console and figure out what's wrong, but no, it just works. All right, so we did some more good things, I think. Got a little bit refactored. Let me see, how long have I been rambling on? Oh my god, it's been like almost an hour. So what I want to do is I kind of want to use cool, fancy functor things to just make this all be like one line, because I think that's the sort of thing you can do, but here, let's start from here, all right? See if we can wrap this up, because we have a maybe, right? And if that maybe, if it's nothing, then we pass along nothing. If it's something, then we pass along things, right? So we should be able to collapse that into like a fmap, right? I'm not 100% sure how to do that, but I'll give it the old college try. Oh, first I was going to see what's the type, a little pin in that. What's the type of get properties? Not in scope. What? Oh, reload. Type of get properties. Huh? Isn't that a handler HTML? So yeah, maybe key enterprise is enterprise ID. Oh, it gives us back. Stupid. Gives us back a handler, and the properties are inside the handler, right? Oh no, it didn't like that. Handler, I think it's a handler nothing, actually. Or handler empty type, unit type. It's not. Handler type hole. Should give us a type wildcard. Isn't it supposed to tell us for handler entity property. Okay, if you say so. Okay, so that's a handler entity property. And you see, let me go back because maybe you didn't see what happened there. So I put underscore here. It's a type hole. And if you really want, which you probably shouldn't, but you can enable the partial type signatures language extension to make that compile with the type hole there. But we don't really want it to compile. We're just asking GHC to tell us, hey, what's the type of that, right? And here it obligingly tells us found type wildcard underscore. For some reason, underscores don't show in this console, but whatever. Standing for list of entity property. And so you say, cool, that's what's supposed to be there, entity property. And then you compile it, and it compiles. So I think I should be able to do like some sort of, well, here, let's do it. It would be like, so we're going to say let maybe EID equals, so I'm going to do this kind of step by step. It's going to be like fmap const EID onto ment. So ment maybe enterprise. And we're just going to say if we have an enterprise, then just use the EID here. We're going to say let, well, we already have a maybe enterprise, but we need this like, we might not need. We might be able to do this simpler. But for now, we have these guys tupled up. So let's say mtuple equals fmap lambda e just EID e ment, and then we should be able to plug in meid and mtuple. That might improve things. I don't think that'll improve things. Mtuple couldn't match type maybe key enterprise with. Okay, so it doesn't like having the maybe there. Wait, what? Oh, we got too many maybes. What did I do wrong? We might need to enable like tuple sections or something here. No. Just one too many justs. And this is one of those things, if I knew like my arrow operators, there's probably some sort of crazy one-liner here. Using like triple ands or something, but I don't know them all that well, so I don't know if that helped or hurt. So now it should be like so now it's all properties, get properties meid, and then render. Yeah, so we did make a little bit of progress, huh? Right? So we should be able, again, I'm gonna not delete that, I'm just gonna comment it out for now. We should have eliminated that case statement. Yeah, there we go. So that's good. That's awesome. I like that. Already looking better. And part of this is honestly, this is just indented a little bit too much. Kind of. This isn't necessarily just me being like super strict on this, but it's also because I'm not 100% comfortable with a white space significant language yet, and I've had Haskell scream at me because like something wasn't quite spaced right. So I try and space everything very nicely. Like you'll see, I just changed the spacing. I'm gonna like see it broke it. Parse error on input. Huh? See, yeah, it didn't like that. So that I think has to be indented one more level. Oh yeah, see. And then that is like not quite indented right because VS Code helpfully tab aligned it. Really would be super cool to do a VS Code extension that like instead of having fixed width like tabs, instead like started out with like 2 or 4 however many spaces you want, but then after that set tab to like, so one tab from here would be all over here. Set tab to be like where it needs to be. That'd be cool. But that's in the future. Maybe that's something I can make in the future. I don't know. Doubtful. All right, so now we should be able to collapse this a little bit more, right? So we got this nasty thing right here. This is like unnecessarily long because it couldn't deduce the type that I was looking for. So we had to have an explicit type annotation there. But yeah, we should be able to like fmap this because again, we have a case where we have nothings and then we have somethings, right? And that's kind of a indication that I should be able to like fmap. Is there a either to maybe function? Maybe. Probably not. Like if I'm okay with just discarding the left value if I get it, is there like a either to maybe? Hey, look, there's an either to maybe, except it's in Haskell util. We might have to write our own little either to maybe. So we're gonna do that because I don't really care what the error is gonna be some text from like data text reader that describes the error or something, but or I don't even know what the left is, and I don't really care what the left is. I'm not using the left, so either to maybe, either a b, let's say either EA, maybe A, where E would be like error, to maybe left whatever equals nothing, and then either to maybe right A equals just A. Okay. And then do case, and then we're gonna do some like awful crap right here. Either to maybe, and see if we're gonna add yet more parentheses because I like parentheses. Say nothing, and then just EID, and then try and align these things so that they're kind of somewhat aligned. This is the part where y'all like laugh at me for not quite knowing all the multiple cursor stuff. Hey, I liked it. It's cool with that. So that's nice. I should probably stick that in like my import because I bet I'll use that again. Where is import? Import. Oh, now we should probably like wait or handler dot. Oh, I didn't save this yet. That oh it's giving me more complaints because it had to go and compile everything, and I have lots of cases where I'm like discarding, doing nothing if the form result is a failure. So anyway, we should be able to do roughly what I just did up there, right? In fact, this whole thing would be like do see if I can get my tabbing right here. Let maybe maybe given ID. See, because I'm already using like MEID, so whatever equals this, and then of, and then this is gonna mess up my tabbing again. Yes, it is. Yeah, sorry, I have to like think about these things. So the nothing here is I should be able to put this. I should be able to just lift this EI. Should be able to just call this. So we're saying if. So we have a maybe ID that may or may not be valid. May or may not be a valid ID. Or well, okay. So it may or may not be convertible to an N64. And then down here, it may or may not be like valid. It may or may not be a valid index into the database. So we should be able to collapse this down, right? By using, as we're going, if it's nothing, we use nothing. If it's just, well, we go in here, and then if it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's just, it's just. That's what we just collapsed down. So I think I should just be able to say EID equals that, and then literally comment out like this entire bit, and then all of this, and maybe like paste that somewhere else. So we can just kind of hold on to it, whatever. It's all messed up, but whatever. And then Oh, but then we have the problem that mm, whatever. I'll just make this go to a tab space and hopefully GHC. So now we have a problem that is that so this is a maybe, but run DB needs a actual like it can't take a maybe. And giving it a default value wouldn't make sense. So I might have like regressed the code here, but we'll try and work with what we have here. Like I might actually need to keep that case or not. Hmm. What if so? Actually, what if I make a little function here, right? That's always somewhere to start, right? So we can say um, get with maybe ID, be like maybe enterprise ID to handler to something, and we can go get with maybe ID MID equals the thing is it's going to have to return like a maybe result. Equals if nothing get with maybe ID just EID equals run DB get EID. And I bet this is going to be like a handler nothing. And we should be able to like at least get with maybe ID EID. And then that's not going to type check, but I kind of want to see what the output is. Undefined. Make it type check at least a little bit. So it's going to be handler maybe enterprise. And then that changed everything down here to a maybe. So that's the this is where my like not being super comfortable with applicatives comes in. At least I think that's what it is. So MENT is maybe an enterprise. The problem is we changed this into a nothing. So I think that's where we get the... Isn't that where we get this const EID applicative onto? Isn't that where that thing kind of comes from? It's probably gonna... And it stopped complaining. I am a genius. And then this might be a little bit trickier. Not trickier, but I'd have to do like have another like utility function like you know enter. I'm just gonna call it foo because I want to get rid of it, and calling it foo will make me get rid of it. And that's gonna take a maybe enterprise. I want to back up for a second here because it's this. You probably this is kind of magic, and I don't understand it well enough to explain it super well. But that's like the applicative programming style, and the only reason I know it is just from kind of following tutorials blindly. But essentially, my understanding of what's happening here is that so you noticed that before it was complaining at us because it expected maybe something, and it got maybe something. And this lets us eliminate that by, so we're applying f mapping const, the constant function, onto the enterprise ID. And then we're taking, so that creates a function, right? And then we're applying that function onto the maybe enterprise we have. So this might be the simplest possible case because the function that we're creating is const enterprise ID, and then we're essentially replacing if maybe enterprise, if that's not nothing, then we're replacing whatever's in there with the application of this function. Maybe that makes sense to somebody. Anyway, we're making foo. Maybe enterprise to no, we're gonna say foo is enterprise ID enterprise foo EID equals EID. Okay. And I think we need to do like the same sort of thing, except it's a little bit more complicated because now we really want to get this down to like well, I don't know. We might have to flip it at some. We might have to do something. But let's try and do the same thing we just did. All right. We're gonna have foo splat EID apply to men, and it's probably not gonna type check, but hopefully it. Yeah, it's the wrong way around. It's expecting enterprise and got an enterprise ID. It's expecting enterprise. We need to flip foo. And we're not going to use the flip function. We're going to use the IDE equals IDE. We're going to change the type signature. So we're literally going to flip the function and see if that helps. It helps. Oh, and we can get rid of this undefined. I just had it in there to make it type check. Handler nothing equals stove. Oh, that's right. It didn't like. Whatever. Put it back. It didn't like the. For some reason, the handler type constructor isn't in scope. So yeah, weird. Hey, so it worked. So that's nice. So applicative programming. It's like the first time I've done this from scratch. So apologize. I apologize for the difficulty. And then I know this is dragging on. I don't know if anybody wants to watch me do more. You've probably stopped watching by now. But if you haven't, I'm going to try and do the same thing with this entire thing, right? Oh, and isn't this just like... Isn't there like a function that's like A, B, A, B? It's not like... Well. So foo, isn't that just like literally a tuple constructor? Yes, it is. Ha! How about that? Oh, and I can get rid of these like let statements as well. By just sticking them in there, right? Make sure that works. That works. So that's nice. So I think I'm going to go with the same approach I'm doing here. Or I kind of want to fix up the formatting here. I mean, we're looking better, huh? We're looking way better. But I think I can get rid of this case too. Right? By saying because again, we have a nothing and we have a something, or at this point, like a potentially something at least. And again, I can do like the same process of extracting this out to like its own function. So do I'm going to call it foo again. I'm going to call it bar so we don't get confused. Bar should take a maybe text, and it should give me back me back up maybe. To SQL key. Oh, well, that's not in scope. I think it's maybe key A. I'm going to specialize it to like maybe key enterprise. I don't know if that, you know what? We're going to do the same approach of make the compiler to do the work, do the hard work. That's going to be bar equals to maybe fmap to SQL key first dot decimal with the ridiculous data text read reader int 64 specialization bar text ID. This might work. We're gonna try like the point freestyle here, even though I don't really like the point freestyle. Oh, it didn't like this. Either to maybe, and this is where. It didn't fix things. So we're going to pull out all of this. I think I might have typed something wrong. Say bar text ID equals that. Get rid of one set of parentheses. And then I think I can get rid of another set of parentheses and also text ID by composing. Ambiguous type variable. Maybe key records. Well, we can fix both of those at once by calling it maybe key enterprise. And also it would probably be able to, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we say key A, let's see if it can figure it out. Call it R for record. And see if the compiler is smart enough to figure out what we want. Dot is applied to too few arguments. Oh, it's because I left that in there. It's not because I left that in there. In fact, that didn't affect it at all. You know what, we're going to go back. I'm going to control Z a little bit. Put that back. I think I need another parenthesis. Yes, there we go. And we figured out this was a handler, maybe A. We wanted to see if it could figure out what type we want, except it can't because we D equals bar text ID. It didn't like something. Whew. I don't think the dot is working. Text. Expected type. Bar. Oh, that's right, because we wanted to just text ID. Maybe? Maybe key record with handler. That's because we don't need a handler. I don't know why I did handler. Maybe text to maybe key R. Right? Didn't like that either. Couldn't match type text with maybe text. Expected type, maybe text to blah. Actual type, text to blah. Function. Either string key R, that's right. In fact, I think I might actually need to use this function a bit more. I'm gonna call it parse key. Parse to key. Parse to key. See, it thinks I have a text. It thinks text ID is text. I don't know why it would be. Is this another thing where I save too many times? Probably not. Yeah, no, same error. See, I don't see why it would let parse just. So it's maybe text. It's getting a maybe text, so that's maybe text. That's fmap. Did I screw up my parentheses or something? So I'm having trouble reading this at the moment, so I'm going to say type parsed key equals data.text.read.reader int 64. Okay, so at least make it a little bit shorter. This is really kind of dragging along. I was hoping this would be like a 30-minute video. Instead, it's like long. Maybe I'll edit it down later, but I'm bad at editing. Oh, what if... I think I know. Maybe. Maybe I don't know. I think since at first we were giving it text, now we're giving it maybe text. I think maybe this needs to be an applicative. Is it like app? Is the app? It's monad. What's the word? I want to just replace. Was it? I think it's app. Might not be. I want to replace it with the. Oh yeah, I didn't like that at all. I wanted to replace it with like the applicative, whatever. Splat. That didn't work either. No, we'll go back to fmap. I think this is where we need the splat. Except that's probably not going to help either. That's because we're trying to mix functors. I don't know, you can see I'm just kind of taking a shotgun approach here. You know what? The other way we can do it is just make it text. No instance for... Huh? Oh, I think we do need to specialize this. Key... Let me give it an entity constraint. Oh, that's not a constraint. I don't know. I'd have to go hit the books here. But for now, we're just going to say key enterprise. Give it the constraint at once. It needed a constraint for R of some sort, and I don't know what the right constraint is. I'd have to go look, and I don't want to look right now. So yeah. So hey, that helped. And the reason why I think if we change it from We changed it from a type of FA FB to AFB, which means it kind of made it like monady, right? Like we should be able to like do it in some sort of a. We're not in the right monad, but I don't know. Like I was thinking we'd be able to do something. We might be able to do like. Well, no, because we need EID in many places. So this might be. Well, here we go. We might be able to do like. We might be able to roll up this case right here. No, I think this might be as simple as we can get. Or as simple as I want to get right now. Because this is like, this is a meaningful branch. And I know we can I know it can be simplified more in that we could make this it's a meaningful branch in the sense that we're doing remember this get with maybe ID. I'm going to call it get from DB. Yeah. So it's clear that we're doing a database action here. I know we can do it so that like so that if we in theory we could simplify this in such a way that if this is nothing, then through the series of splats and fmaps and whatnot, it doesn't try and run this in the nothing case. But number one, I think that might take me a little while to figure out. And number two, I kind of like it how it is because this does leave it open for me to do different things in different branches. Like that might be a meaningful branch to me. So I think that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Bye.